Good morning. We have got quite a boisterous crowd today. Welcome to this month's Blinn board meeting. We've got a lengthy early agenda, so it's great to see everyone. I know we're going to get an opportunity to have some retirees today and honor some other folks, so great to have you. I'm going to go ahead and call the meeting to order. The Texas Government Code permits this Board of Trustees to meet in a closed executive session for the following reasons, among others: to consult with the college district's attorneys on matters deemed privileged by the Texas Disciplinary Rules of Professional Conduct, or Government Code 551.071, to deliberate regarding real property under 551.072, a prospective gift under 551.073, certain personnel matters under 551.074, security devices or security audits under 551.076, and economic development negotiations under 551.087. If the board meets in closed session, we will announce the particular section under which we will be doing so prior to initiating the closed portion of the meeting. We've got a couple of students that are going to help us today with our invocation and our pledges. Our invocation will be by Jasmine Jackson. Jasmine is a sophomore from Cypress Creek High School. She is a member of the Blinn women's basketball team, which finished last season ranked number 3 in the national poll, had a record of 31-4 and tied for the conference championship, and finished in the Elite 8 at the NJCAA National Tournament. Jasmine has made the Blinn College Athletic Honor Roll and has been named a Dean Scholar in the past 3 semesters. She is a sociology major and hopes to be a counselor in the future. Welcome, Jasmine. For our pledge, Carson Anderson. Carson is a sophomore from Sealy High School, where he played basketball and baseball. He was active in the National Honor Society and enjoyed helping with the Special Olympics team. He is honored to be a part of the Blinn College men's basketball program, where he serves as one of the team student assistants. He has built friendships for a lifetime while doing what he truly loves, being involved in men's basketball. Carson is working on his associate degree in business and plans to attend a 4-year university after Blinn to finish his business degree. Welcome to both of you.
I ask that everyone bow their heads and close their eyes, please. Dear Heavenly Father, we come to you today to ask that you may provide us with your wisdom so that we may have a fruitful meeting. We pray that the outcome of this gathering will best benefit students, staff, alumni, friends, and all people associated with the Blinn community. We pray that everyone involved will engage in a meaningful discussion and that you limit distractions. Finally, we would like to thank you for allowing us to come together this morning, and we ask that you guide our minds to fulfill your purpose. In your name we pray, amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Thank you both for being here. Okay. Does not appear that anyone signed up for public comments, so we will move right into the report section of our meeting. The first report is Chancellor's Administrative Report.
Thank you, Chair Colcorst. Good morning, everyone. It's so great to see the room filled with wonderful friends and staff members and even some students from Blinn. Trustees, I'd like to start off with a lovely honor for Phi Theta Kappa. I'm pleased to share that one of our administrators recently received one of Phi Theta Kappa Honor Society's top awards in recognition of his work supporting Blinn students and developing student leaders. Chris Mars, would you stand? Thank you. Chris is... Keep standing, Chris. Chris is the Executive Dean of the Rellis campus, and he was recently named a 2024 Shirley B. Gordon Award of Distinction winner. Blinn students nominated Dean Mars for this award based upon his support of Phi Theta Kappa, which includes promoting the organization on campus, giving remarks at Phi Theta Kappa events, and assisting students with their projects. Again, Dean Mars, congratulations on this very well-deserved honor. I'm also pleased to share that the Bellwether College Consortium has once again recognized Blinn for our innovative programs and partnerships. Blinn has been named a national finalist for the 2024 Legacy Award, which honors innovative community colleges from around the United States, their programs, and who demonstrate 5 or more years of success in recognition of our role as a partner of the Rellis Academic Alliance. On Sunday, I will be accompanied by Dr. Jim Nelson, Associate Vice Chancellor for the Texas A&M University System and Director of the RELIS Academic Alliance, Dr. Marcelo Busicki, Vice Chancellor for Academic Affairs, Dr. Becky McBride, Vice Chancellor for Student Services, and Chris Mars, Executive Dean for the RELIS campus, to present our report regarding the RELIS Academic Alliance to the College Consortium in San Antonio, Texas. Trustees, there are only 10 finalists throughout the entire United States for this award, and so I'm so proud that Blinn once again is a finalist for this national award. It's really something and quite impressive. I thank our wonderful team for this recognition. And on to our facilities report. Trustees, I'd like to share a brief update regarding our current construction projects. On College Avenue, concrete has been poured for curbs, crosswalks, and light pole bases on the north side of the street. Sidewalks have been framed and concrete pours have begun. This project, trustees, remains scheduled for completion this coming April, in just a couple of months. And then over to the old main building. During winter break, inclement weather prevented the contractor from completing this project. You will recall we hoped that we would have this finished in December. The contractor will remobilize during spring break to complete the metal coping, the parapet sidewall flashing, and the final roof tile replacements. This is now scheduled for completion for this March, next month, trustees. And over to the Bryan Administration Building. At the Bryan Campus Administration Building, the pouring of the concrete slab is complete, and portions of the concrete roadway are underway. The installation of site utilities is ongoing, and the erection of steel framing has begun, so you can now see what is going to happen there. Optiman has mobilized to begin the relocation of their overhead communication line. This project, trustees, is still scheduled for completion in February 2025, so 1 year from now, guess where we will be? We'll be having a grand opening. Trustees, I would like to share an important recognition for the Blinn Police Department. They recently received this. During the winter break, the police department was informed by the Texas Police Chiefs Association Foundation that it has achieved accreditation status through the Texas Law Enforcement Accreditation Program. Through this voluntary process, Texas police agencies can prove their compliance with 170 law enforcement best practices. Of the more than 2,800 law enforcement agencies in Texas, only 7% have received accreditation, and only 3 community colleges have achieved this status. In addition, the Blinn Police Department Civilian Active Shooter Training Team was awarded the Texas School Safety Center Fall 2023 School Safety Spotlight Award for staff development and training. This program has provided more than 600 Blinn faculty, staff, and students across the college district with training in active shooter responses, situational awarenesses, tourniquets, leadership, and safety awareness. Trustees, we are joined today by John Chancellor, Blinn's Chief of Police and Emergency Management, and Jean Ellis, Board Director from the Texas Police Chiefs Association Foundation Accreditation Program. Chief Chancellor, I'd like to invite you to come to the podium to share more information about this wonderful achievement.
Chair Colthurst and board members and Dr. Hensley. Dr. Hensley was aware when I was asked to be police chief after coming here as Director of Safety and Risk Management, that this was a goal that I wanted to achieve for the police department. And we were nowhere near ready, because you got to get the right people in place before you can achieve something like this. And so a few years ago, we were able to hire Brian Carlisle, and I knew Brian's work ethic before he got here, and I knew what kind of work he did, and I knew that he could get us through it because he got me through it in my previous job. So I'd like to, Brian, to stand up for a second. He was the one that, Brian is the policy guru, and when you have good people to share your goal with, and you know they can get it done, then you can kind of sit back and just relax and watch them do it. The other people I'd like to recognize are all the police department folks in here. Could y'all all stand up, please, real quick? Some of them already stand up. Those folks that do the work every day are the ones that make it happen. And a program like this doesn't do you any good unless you live by the policies and procedures that are set forth. So I'm going to ask Chief Gene Ellis to come up. A little background, Chief Ellis, he is recently retired from the city of Belton as Assistant City Manager / Police Chief, and his retirement is short-lived because he's going to take over next Monday as the Executive Director for the Texas Police Chiefs Association. So Gene, come on up and tell them about this.
Thank you, and good morning. It's an honor to be with you this morning to talk a little bit about the accomplishment of the Blinn College Police Department. It's my honor to represent the Texas Law Enforcement Best Practices Accreditation Program. The Texas Police Chiefs Association is made up of over 1,400 professional law enforcement executives. And this morning, Blinn College Police Department, I'm honored to present them with a certificate of accreditation for achieving compliance with the Best Practices Program. Several years ago, the Texas Police Chiefs Association developed the accreditation program for law enforcement in Texas. Many of you are aware of accreditation programs in other industries, such as education and hospitals and so forth. The Blinn College Police Department is now among the elite, as you heard your chancellor tell you, 7% of the law enforcement agencies in America. The best practices program, the accreditation program, what does that mean? Is that meant that they had to do a self-inspection of 173 standards. Everything from use of force, protection of civil rights, vehicle pursuits, training, arrest, search and seizure, patrol investigations, just to name a few. And then once they said they were ready, an on-site team from out of the area came in that's experienced law enforcement executives trained as assessors arrived in Blinn and actually did an inspection to make sure that your police department was doing it the best way it could be done and that they were in compliance with all those standards. Now keep in mind this is a voluntary program. Nobody made them do it. They had to prove these standards and that they met them to these trained assessors. It's not easy to comply. The agency had to do complete audit and meet all these standards. The uniqueness of this program is that it's recognized that Chief Chancellor could stand up here and tell you they're doing it the best way it can be done. But why is it important to you? It's because others have come in here and verified that and told and are now telling you with this presentation that that Blinn College Police Department's doing it the best it can be done in Texas. So with this, I would like to actually officially make the presentation to Chief Chancellor of the Best Practices Accreditation Program Certificate of Accreditation. Now, this does not mean it's over. They have to do an annual report, and then we'll be back in 4 years to inspect again to make sure they're maintaining compliance. But right now, I can tell you they're the best of the best. You've got one of the best police departments in the state, and also, personally, I can tell you I know Chief Chancellor well and one of the most well-respected police chiefs in the state. So with that, Chief Chancellor, I want to present you this certification.
Thank you, and congratulations to Chief Chancellor and members of the Blinn College Police Department. I am so proud of you. Jennifer Taylor, our Assistant Chief, is back there as well as some of our very finest. They do such a tremendous job for us in keeping us safe. And I always tell them, you know, keep yourselves safe. We appreciate you immensely, and thank you so much for this lovely and wonderful and very distinguished award that you have brought to this institution. At this time, if it's all right with you, trustees, if you could gather behind me, Chair Colkhorst, if you could meet me in the front, and we'll accept with a photo this opportunity. It's perfect.
Sure what we do.
All right.
And I'll count to three, and 1, 2, 3, and just one more time, and 1, 2, 3. Perfect, thank you.
I'm just going to add a little personal note to this one. There are only 3 community colleges in the state that have ever earned this award, and I've been at 2 of them. My previous college, I heard about this award from the chief there, and I said, let's go for it. And so we spent a couple of years preparing, and it is not an easy feat to go through all of those principles that he noted. And so when I came to Blinn, the very first day, the very first morning, the first person that I went over to see was the chief of police for the Blinn Police Department over at the Student Center, and chatted with him and mentioned this award as well. And then when Chief Chancellor came, we talked about it too. And so when he came to me and said that he would be interested in trying for this award, I said, absolutely, I would be so proud. Our institution would be so proud. So again, you make us so grateful for your leadership that you do for us every single day on all of our campuses. We are but a moment away from a tragedy at any second. I tell people this is on my mind 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. It is never far from the forefront of what could happen at any moment. So I'm so grateful that we have the kinds of leaders that we have at this institution who care about excellence and service and rapid response. And thank you. Appreciate you immensely. Well, trustees, we have some others to honor this morning. We have some trustees. We have 4. And together, they are leaving with having worked at Blinn for a total of 83 years. 83 years. Our first retiree today is Vicki Reeves, and I ask if she would come forward and stand right here, if you would, please. Right over there. Hi, Vicki. How are you doing? Vicki, trustees, just right there, that's perfect. Vicki is our snack bar attendant, and we're so happy that she could join us today. Vicki has been with Blinn since February of 2017, where she was hired originally as a part-time snack bar attendant, and then in April of 2018, she converted to a full-time role. And her supervisor, Director of Food Services, Joe Schultz, said the following, quote, throughout her tenure, Vicki has been the epitome of professionalism, kindness, and commitment. Her warm smile and friendly demeanor have brightened the days of countless students, faculty, and staff members who frequented the snack bar. Beyond her exceptional customer service skills, Vicki has been a true team player, always willing to lend a helping hand and go the extra mile to ensure that every student's dining experience is enjoyable. As Vicki embarks on this new chapter of her life in retirement, she leaves behind a legacy of excellence and compassion that will be cherished for years to come. Vicki, on behalf of the entire Food Services Department and all of us at Blinn and all of us who have enjoyed your lovely service at the snack bar, I extend our heartfelt gratitude to you and thank you for all the years of service that you have given to this college. And I know that each of our trustees would like to thank you personally, so trustees, if you would stand. And Vicki, I know that they would like to say a word of welcome and appreciation to you. Thank you, Vicki. And if you'll just remain standing, Chair Colkhorst and I will join you.
Vicki, I'm not going to make you talk, okay? Unless you want to. All right, you can do that. Vicki, thank you for your service to Blinn College. And I know you put smiles on a lot of kids' faces, and we've got a little certificate and a gift from Blinn College. We wish you all the best in your retirement.
And Vicki, do you have anyone with you today or any coworkers that you would like to introduce, and also any words that you would like to say as you leave today?
I just have my daughter here, Monica Reeves, and and just thank y'all.
Thank you so much, and we'll go ahead and thank you for being here. Do you want to join us for a photo? No, you don't have to if you don't want to.
And I'll count to three, and one, two, three, and just one more time, one, two, three. Perfect, thank you.
Trustees, next I would like to ask what meant. Meticulous with details, proficient in every task, Griselda has not only managed administrative duties, but has fostered an atmosphere of camaraderie and support that we will undoubtedly miss. On behalf of every member of the Blinn College Police Department, thank you, Griselda, for your tireless service. We are better for having had the opportunity to work with you, and we are going to miss your vivacious spirit as the audience, I think, can already grasp. And Griselda, I want to thank on behalf of all of us at Blinn, your total of 24 years of service for Blinn has just been so commendable. So on behalf of all of us, I know that there's always kind of a person who is holding the office down as our officers are going out and doing their thing, and you've been kind of that glue in the office that has held everybody together, and for that we are so immensely grateful. Griselda, I know each of our trustees would like to have the opportunity to shake your hand as well and to say words of farewell to you too, so would you go ahead, trustees, and rise at this time?
I could tell that Griselda doesn't have much to say very often, so she may take the microphone here in a minute. Griselda, thank you for 24 years of service to Blinn College. Just a tremendous gift that we received, so we're going to give you a certificate and a small token of appreciation. Wish you all the best in your retirement.
No, she's never been shy. It's been so fun to work with you, and thank you so very much. Now, if you have anyone here today who you would like to introduce, and also if you have any remarks you would like to make, now is your moment.
Okay. No, no one's here because I didn't know I was coming this morning. My husband works in Odessa, so he's back over there, and all my kids had something going on. And I mean, like I said, I got out of that robe, and luckily I took my shower last night. I was booking it, so no, and we call her AC, Jennifer Taylor. I've enjoyed working under her. I love being at the police department. I'm missing it. I'm enjoying my time off right now, so I got my first grandbaby, and I'm enjoying my time at home doing whatever the hell I want.
Well, thank you so very much. For our photo today, how about if we ask Chief Chancellor, Assistant Chief Jennifer Taylor, and any of the officers and staff who are with the department today, would you come forward and join us for one final photo?
I want all the officers that know me, work with me, to come over here.
So sweet. And we will put this out on Facebook and Twitter, and Rich can send you a picture so your family can catch up with you.
Is there a wine party after this? I was here for beer. Maybe look skinny.
And I'll count to 3, and 1, 2, 3. And one more time. 1, 2, 3. Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
You can tell the department's not going to be nearly as much fun every day. I'd like to ask Jerry Hartnett next to step forward, if he would, please. Hi, Jerry. So glad you could be here today, and I know you've got some friends with you today, too. Trustees, Jerry Hartnett has been with Blinn since he was hired as a groundskeeper back in April of 1999, so some time ago. In 2001, he was named grounds foreman, and in 2007, he transitioned to become an HVAC technician level 1. In 2017, he was promoted to HVAC technician level 3. Richard Leminski, HVAC director, who is here today, said the following, and I quote, "Jerry has seen many changes and improvements here at Blinn. He knows practically everyone and knows where everything is. Jerry has been a dedicated employee, extremely conscientious, courteous, and industrious. When needed to help, there he is. If needed after hours, he is there. You can always count on him. We wish him the best in his retirement and hope we can help him. Maybe call on him occasionally for information as needed. Thank you, Jerry, so much for all that you have been at Blinn. You have been so loved and appreciated and have been on the point every time we needed you, no matter what day or night, or whether it was a weekend or a holiday. We thank you so very much for all that you have done. You have been a true blessing for Blinn. And I know, Jerry, that our trustees would like to thank you as well. So if you would, trustees, please rise.
Bubba, mind if I call you that? Bubba and I go back a long way, even before Blinn, when his dad and he ran a convenience store in Somerville, Texas. And I can tell you from personal experience, they don't come any better. Good folks, good family. Thank you for 25 years for Blinn College. Thank you for all that you did for us. I can only hope that your retirement is all that you want it to be. So thank you, Bubba.
Okay, Bubba. I didn't know that, or I've been calling you Bubba a long time ago. But you were Bubba now. Do you have anyone with you? I know we do. So would you like to introduce some people who are with you today? Also, would you like to make any remarks? And then we'll take a photo and invite your loved ones up here and your colleagues with you.
I'm not good at speaking, so I wish I will. Hope I'll be well. So I'm going to enjoy this. I have a wife and family here.
All right. Well, would you like to introduce them? And would you stand as he calls out who you are, please?
Wife Kim Hartnett, my son Mason, and his wife Ashley.
Why don't you all come forward? He has a sister. We don't want to, let's have her introduce.
Patricia Berger.
Patricia, come forward, please. You all come on down. Thank you.
All right, and we'll count to 3. And 1, 2, 3. And just one more time. 1, 2, 3. Perfect. Thank you.
And I know you had some colleagues here in the audience too, so why don't we just at least recognize them as well?
Have Richard Leminski. He is my boss.
Richard, stand up.
He is. Have a new employee. He's been with us a couple months, Michael Grennan. And John Forrest. He's been with us a couple months. And I have some co-worker here that's also been there, neighbor, Charles Hirsch. He was here for a while.
And Charlie was here a few years, well, just a year ago, wasn't it, Charlie, when you retired? As our locksmith trustees, you probably remember Charlie as well. Thank you all so much for being here in support of Bubba. We really appreciate it. Thank you. And next, trustees, I would like to ask Jimmy Vogler to step forward. Hey, Jimmy. Trustees, Jimmy has been a plumber on the Brenham campus since 1997. John Burke, Director of Facilities on the Brenham campus, said the following, and I quote, "I am grateful to have worked with Jimmy and to learn all that I have from him because he is truly a very valuable asset to the physical plant operations and to Blinn College. Jimmy's dedication and institutional knowledge of Blinn College will be greatly missed. I wish Jimmy nothing but the best, and I want to thank him for his contributions to Blinn. Trustees, Jimmy has been with Blinn for 27 years. We are going to miss you greatly. Thank you so much, and on behalf of all our faculty, staff, and students, thank you for keeping us in a comfortable environment in our facilities, and I know our trustees would like to have the opportunity to thank you as well, trustees. All right.
Jimmy, you've been here 27 years, but I think that the big freeze that we had just a few years ago, that probably should have added another 5 years onto your tenure, because I imagine that was tough. But thank you so much for that long service to Blinn College, and please accept this certificate and this gift on our behalf, and enjoy your retirement. Thank you.
And Jimmy, again, would you like to introduce any friends or colleagues that you have with you or relatives? And I'll give you the mic, and then also say anything that you might like to.
Okay, I got Chad Vogler, my son, Gretchen, my daughter-in-law, Bonnie Webb, Secretary of Fiscal Plant, and Ashley Young. I appreciate everybody and I I've enjoyed working here and probably be back later on to help out, but I don't have a whole lot to say. So,
Well, thank you. You have always done your work so quietly but so competently here at Blinn, and we thank you so very much. I think we do have your phone number, so yes, we may. Lord help us that we don't have another ice freeze, but should we have one, you know, we may be calling you back again, Jimmy. Thank you so very much. Thank you for your presence here today and the support of your colleague and your dad. We appreciate it so very much. Thank you again. Did we get a photo yet? Not yet. Do you all want to?
All right, and I'll count to 3. And 1, 2, 3. And 1, 2, 3. Perfect.
Oh, I've got it. They've got it. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Chair Colkhorst and trustees. I appreciate your time and attention, and thank you, all of your friends, colleagues, and loved ones, especially for being here on behalf of the police department and also on behalf of our wonderful and very beloved retirees. With this concludes my report for this morning. Thank you, Chair Colkhorst. I'll return the podium to you.
Okay, thank you so much, Dr. Hensley. The second item on the agenda in reports is the presentation of the financial statement package for the period ended January 31st, 2024, and I believe Dr. Clint Burton is going to give that report to us.
Yeah. It's about accounting. All right. Good morning, trustees and Dr. Hensley. Let's give you an update on where we stand as of February. This is the January statements year to date, 5th month of the year, 42% of the year. Again, the topics we'll cover are unrestricted cash and cash equivalents, revenues, expenditures, financial results, and observations. Unrestricted cash and cash equivalents. Our unrestricted reserves are $60 million. Funding for current projects, the amount set aside is 33 million. And then funding available for future projects is 36 million for a total of 129 million. Looking at a more detailed breakdown, we have 5 months operating reserves of 42.5 million. We have 15 million of deferred maintenance and R&R projects. So that gives us a total of nearly 60 million. In addition, we had the Bryan administration building coming along, and so we have 27.5 million remaining. Keep in mind, this number will be decreasing over the year, that as the Bryan building progresses, this number will have payouts. We're anticipating that it will be completely gone next February. In addition, we have 36 million available for future capital projects. All right, our cash input from cash and refunds is 360,000 for financial aid. Payments of students are 10.2 million, and refunds issued to the students are about $500,000 for a total of 10 million. State appropriations is 0 for the month of January. Keep in mind, the state was only appropriating us 3 times a year, 50% in October. February, this month, we should get 25% if we haven't already. We did get it already, okay? And then in June, we get another 25%. Interest is 550,000. Interest is really positive this year. That will exceed our budget. Miscellaneous grants and property tax is front-loaded with Blinn, mostly in the November, December timeframe. We get a lot of our property tax revenue for a total of 1.3 million to the positive. Our expenditures were payroll of 6 million, ordinary payables of 3.2 million, construction 1.4 million. The Buck Books program, we spent out 147, and Servitas, we spent out 521,000 for a total of 11.4 million. Looking at the change in cash, it was almost exactly equal for the month of January. And then we had a decrease in the local bank account, but our cash reserve was high enough where we were able to move the funds to a pool fund. Looking at our revenues, we budgeted 126.5 revenues using the accrual method. We're at 70 million. Compared to last year, we are very close to where we were on tuition and fees. We have additional state appropriations because of the additional funding the state gave us. Moving forward, breaking down our revenue by source, state appropriations has moved up significantly, and tuition and fees has gone down. Keep in mind, as the tuition and fees, as the state appropriation was increased, the tuition and fees as a percentage went down. Our budgeted state appropriations are 26 million. We have received on the accrual method 13 million, or 51%. Our tuition and fees Using the accrual method, we're at 41 million, at 54% of our budget. Looking at the sources of our tuition and fees, the lion's share is out of district. Fee revenue, general fees is the most significant element of that. And then the food service budget is again 52% at 40-something percent of the year. Auxiliary services, as you can tell, the housing revenue is trending down, but that's to be expected as the P3s come online. The food service has increased and is steadily increasing since COVID. And then the parking has rebounded since COVID. Going through with our expenditures.
Dr. Burton?
Yes, sir.
Just a quick question.
Please.
Go back to that previous slide. Not a huge expense, but
Wait, hang on, I got to figure out where I am here, I'm sorry.
the first day program in the bookstore that we've kind of discussed in the past, I'm just curious, is this the year that we would see any change or impact to our revenue from that? No, it would be next year that we potentially would see
Come on.
the program that all students are to buy their books and have them on the first day.
Yes, sir. That is not any revenue to the college. That is a pass-through on to Barnes & Noble. We will charge the students, so the students are receiving a benefit at a lesser charge. Then we pass that money on to Barnes & Noble. It's not any revenue to the college.
Well, eventually it turns back to revenue as the Barnes & Noble contract gives us money. They give us $200,000 in August and then a percentage of sales. Is that correct? Yeah.
I think it's 7%.
Okay, so we will see, you know, in the bookstore, is that included in that bookstore revenue?
Yes, sir.
So we'll see that change as we get Barnes & Noble's.
Correct.
For that. Okay, I was just curious about that.
No, sir,
Thank you.
Thank you, Vicki. All right, rolling forward, wait, let me go back up one. Ah! He's coming, rescue.
Messed you up, sorry.
I couldn't handle the blitz. Okay, thank you so much. All right. So allocation of revenue dollars, most of our revenue goes towards expense. It goes towards the payroll expense. The key here is debt service has decreased. We paid down $1 million of bonds, which reduced our payment. Our salary and benefits expense comparison, salaries and benefits are up, as all expense categories are, except debt service this year. And rolling forward, instruction is the lion's share of our expenses. The financial results, our revenues at $70 million. Our expenses are at $56 million, so for a net positive $14 million. Comparing this year to last year, we're up $1.1 million. Observation, again, the college's cash is healthy and will continue to be healthy even though we're going to be spending down in Bryan. The revenues are coming in above budget and the expenses are below budget. Any questions?
I just noticed where our insurance looks like it's gone up 30% or better.
Yes, sir.
I'm seeing that same thing in my business. Any plans for the college, to try to rectify that, or?
Well, what has happened with our insurance is we didn't make hardly any claims, and again, this is Chris Beckendorf giving me the history. We hardly made any claims for the previous 20 years. And then we've had 2 freezes that caused significant damage. And so we get our insurance through the Texas Association of School Boards, TASB. And that's basically the best deal out there for our entity. And they are passing these increases on in the form of their premium on to us. But we do have an insurance consultant who is shopping the market for us and letting us know what's going on.
Okay. Any questions, board, on anything?
Under the can't say it, Buck books,
Okay.
there was an expenditure of 145,000. What was that?
That was a payment of the books
Okay,
that we got from the students. We're obligated to give all the money we receive over to Barnes & Noble Higher Ed, and then subsequently, they give us back our cut, our percentage plus
Okay.
200,000.
okay.
Any other questions? All right, well, thank you so much for your time.
Okay. Next on the agenda is the institutional enrollment report for the winter 2023 mini-semester and preliminary spring 2024 semester. Dr. Becky McBride.
All right. Good morning, Dr. Hensley, Mr. Chair, members of the board. It's my pleasure to talk to you today about our winter mini-semester, there we go, and our preliminary numbers for this spring. All right, so on this slide here, you can see our winter session and how we did. I just wanted to remind you that last year, we actually had our highest enrollment since 2017-2018. We had a significant jump last year. This year, we're slightly behind those numbers. And just wanted to remind you that the semester is very intense, it's very short. We present the numbers here to you separately, just so you can see it, but it is all reported with our spring numbers when we report to the coordinating board. The semester began December 18th, it ended January 9th. The students get a small break between the holidays, and right when January 2nd came, boom, they're back in the classes. So it's a very intense time of year for the students that do agree to take the courses. On this slide, trustees, you can see the various campuses where the students take their courses that took winter minis. We had an increase in high school students, which I was impressed with, because those students are, still in high school, and we had more of them sign up for the courses this past December. Takeaways for our winter session, again, as I said, it was the largest we had was last winter, since 2017-2018. This year we had an additional 329 Blinn-only students continue their education. I did see an increase in students who took 2 courses, which is also amazing because the intense nature of the classes. We did see an increase from Rellis, Brenham, and Bryan students that took winter courses trying to jumpstart, their educational path and get things finished as well. And just a little sidebar, we had 12 additional sections this year when compared to last year, so we offered some more courses as well. Switching now, talk a little bit about spring 24. As you can see by the dotted line on the screen, that's where we are with our parts of term and how we're progressing. We're in week number 6, which time is going by very quickly, so 6th week of the term, and we're going to go until May 8th. Finals are May 4th through the 9th, and then of course graduation May 8th. And before we know it, they will be graduating. So semester is going to go by rather quickly, I'm sure. On this slide, trustees, is a pie chart showing you the percent of the courses that we're offering, the different types. So we have the majority of the classes are in the 16-week format, so 56%. And you can see there in the burgundy color, the first 8 weeks, about 18%. And the portion that we're really enrolling in now is the second 8 week, the 21% of the courses. Those don't begin, of course, until March 18th. So we're still enrolling actively for that semester. And of course, the fourth 4 weeks, which is a small part of term, we're using our CRM, the Customs Relation Management software, to reach out to students who haven't enrolled yet, who maybe applied and haven't come, and also students who are part-time, and encouraging them to take some additional classes with us. All right, on this slide, you can see the certified numbers from 2020 to 23. So, of course, we're at the partial enrollment period, so we're comparing where we are today with the final numbers from the years past. I would like to note that we're actually 254 students were above where we were last year at this time. So we're actually 254 above. We're just comparing the 35 pluses comparing to where we ended up the 4 years previous. So we're doing very well. Okay, on this slide, we have the breakdown by campus. All right, and as I mentioned just on our previous slide, we're at partial enrollment here right now for 2024 spring. We did have an increase, of course, in person. You can see our high schools, Rellis campus, and Schulenburg and Sealy had a few additional students with us this semester. Of course, I'd like to thank Dr. Busicki and Mr. Anderson for their continued support in enrollment. Trust me, it's an ongoing conversation with all of us in adding courses and sections to take care of our students. And you can see distance education is negative. We expect that because the students are joining us more on campus, and we're okay with that. We want to see them on campus for their classes. To talk about the Bryan campus here, you can see a decrease there. If you remember in the fall when we met, I mentioned they had their largest freshman class ever. It was 13,862. So that, of course, impacts that campus directly. Students are able to start their four-year plan earlier on. I'd also like to note, we had, of course, a jump in the winter mini from students on that campus as well. So some students are getting classes done earlier in the winter so they don't have to come back in the spring. But I'd also like to note, I did some research when the fall semester enrollment ended. And I looked from fall to fall, so fall 22, fall 23, looked at students that came to us that may have just stopped coming. And of about 2,700 students, 770 of them went to A&M. That's why they didn't come back. I had another almost 600 students that transferred to another institution, and then the other 1,300 just stopped out. And so we've been actively reaching out to those students, encouraging them to come back to us. We miss you, we want to see you again. So we are looking into what's going on at that campus and why that number is the way that it is. I'd also like to note that we have 56 dual credit agreements, which is so exciting. And of course, another 203 students at Waller High School. We're actually talking with Waller about offering summer classes on a sidebar as well for all folks. So we're excited about that because that's a new enrollment venture for us. And of course, our other new we have a new P-TECH with Belleville this year, Digital Academy of Texas, and College View were the new ones from this year. And when we look at Rellis, just a couple, because I think things that you may be thinking about, I know I think about them, out of the enrollment there, about 1,300 students are team and about 640 are TEAB. So just to give you a breakdown for that campus, because I know we've talked about that in the past as well. And a closing note for this slide, we are currently offering 21 additional sections when compared to last year, but we're not finished. So I think that number is going to go up by the time we talk about this semester here in a few months. So the takeaways for the spring, as I said, we've already exceeded the certified numbers for 21, 22, and 23. But when we look at this point in time in February of last year, we're 254 above. Okay, so we're doing very well with that. So I anticipate, of course, this headcount is going to increase as students enroll for that second 8-week term. And of course, we're using our CRM to communicate with students, to get them on board and to do the right things. And we're always continually, and thank you to Rich and his department, updating the graphics in eCampus and My Blinn. That's critical for students. That's where they look. They don't really go on the website. When they log in for their classes, that's where we get their attention. Say, hey, don't forget you can sign up for this semester. Hey, don't forget you need to get advised. And that seems to be working very well for us. And so with that, I'll stand for any questions, please.
I do have one, maybe two. On the screen with the head count that's up 35 or 254, it's that one right before the other one. Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
So the question I have, and maybe it's because it's just a partial count right now.
Yes, ma'am.
As to why the contact hours are
Low?
negative.
They're taking fewer classes.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
and again, it's one of those, for me, I'm fixated on the 254, I'll admit, above where we were last year, middle of February. So I thought about that too. They're just taking fewer hours as of right now. And that's why we are continuing to push, gently nudge and say, hey, you can still take courses, you can still sign up to get those numbers up.
Okay. And the only
Yes,
other
ma'am.
question is, Rella seems to be going up 26%. Is that a reason why another reason why Brian is down a little? No.
No,
That's
ma'am,
not
that's why I
one?
looked into it. And
Okay.
I'll do it again once we get to our census date, April 15th of this semester, because I was thinking the same thing. You know, are they just switching over? They're not.
Okay.
They're not doing that. No, ma'am. A few are. I won't say no one is, but that's not what you're
That's
seeing.
not the big number.
No, ma'am.
Thank you.
Welcome. Yes, ma'am.
I'd like to, oh, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Just to follow up on Rebecca's, trustee Aylert's question, on the, we're down on contact hours. Do we know why we're down? Are they going back to work for financial reasons, or do they have enough dual credit where they're not able to take more hours, or do we know why they're taking fewer courses?
I wish I could get, we'll do some, I'll see what we can find out if that makes sense, but it's difficult because some of them, life changes too, right? Some people start working full-time, some have a change at home where they're not able to go anymore. With the commuter students, very difficult to say why they're changing. It's not that we're not offering the courses, though. As I said, we're 21 ahead. I think just life is changing for students. I do.
May I ask one more question?
Yes, please.
On the mini-mester comments that you had, there was a comment that 329 students were Blinn only. What is the significance of that? Does that mean that do you know what I'm asking?
Yeah, I do. And what I think is happening is it's our current student population is saying, I can do this, I can take an additional course. And we do have quite a few transfer students, right? So it could be a full-time A&M student that picks up a class right in the winter session, then they go back, you know, to their full-time institution. But the fact that our students have said, I can do this, and I can take a class in this short amount of time and do well, and some of them are taking 2 classes. I'm impressed with that, truly I am. I mean, we are an open enrollment institution, so when you see the kids that are academically prepared and we're seeing an increase, that's a good thing for us, I believe. So thank you.
Thank you.
Trustee Mosier.
I do. I'd like to have a little more conversation from either Dr. Hensley or from Dr. McBride, but the Bryan enrollment has gone down dramatically from where it was a few years ago. And we all kind of had felt like that campus was more than crowded at the time, but again, it seems to me, and your comment about the RELIS as not being a factor, which is, that's great if it's not, but if it is, if it's not, then what has happened with the Bryan campus if it's not going to RELIS? How do we analyze that enrollment decline there?
Thank you for the question. And I will be looking at it again this spring, once we get to our final enrollment, what those students have done. But I find it fascinating too. You want to know what's going on. Why is it dropping like this? And the sense that 1,300 I mentioned that didn't transfer anywhere between fall of 22 and fall of 23, about half of them had failing grades as well. Wanted to share that. So we also have students that may not be, as an open enrollment institution, they're not academically prepared or they're not focused. You have that issue as well. So I saw that 1,300 is really what I was looking at, the ones who didn't transfer, the stop-outs. Half of them didn't do well, and half of them just stopped going to college altogether. We couldn't find them with the National Student Clearinghouse data. So it's interesting.
Yeah.
I've got a couple of questions. Okay.
Yes.
A couple of questions, comments. So if you look at the Bryan and RELIS enrollment combined, we're actually down for Bryan College Station, 35 students. Could it be that you're moving more sections and programs to the RELIS? That's what happened at the beginning. That's where all the RELIS students came from. Do we know if we're offering more sections at RELIS than we're offering at Bryan at more conducive times to students? Or, there's got to be a reason why I know you say they're not switching, but it could be that instead of the class being available in Bryan now, it's available to RELIS as a first-time student.
And I don't know, Dr. Busicki, I think he should answer that for you because they do the course offerings.
Thank you for the question, Trustee. There is no intentional plan to reduce any classes at the Bryan campus. We have not observed that. Our mechanism to open classes has to do with the demand of the class at the time. So if we were to notice that there are any sections that need some reinforcement, we would have opened, or we will open additional sections in the Bryan campus.
Well, I think it's something you need to think about. Have you moved programs? I know you have, because initially we did move programs over there, but we're fixing to build, or we're in the process of building a really big administration building over there. So I think we need to address this problem. And maybe rethink some of these programs and move them back to the Bryan campus. But anyway, if you would check on that. The other thing I was going to mention was in terms of what Rebecca and Diana asked about in terms of the contact hours, you're going to actually pick up quite a few contact hours in these second term, 6-week courses. So I think we're probably going to be okay at the end. We're not going to necessarily pick up that many more students because we only count students once, but we will pick up more contact hours since they're going to be adding more contact hours. So I think we're okay on contact hours. It's good to see that total increase. So good report.
Thank you for your questions.
Trustee Wells.
Dr. McBride, thank you for the report. There's such a significant increase in high school. What do you attribute that to?
The dual credit agreements, well, we have a wonderful department. I know we have some great relationships with these ISDs, and we visit them frequently. I think that's part of it too, is they know who we are as people. I know even in Brenham, we have a staff member that's there 1 day a week, half a day, in the counseling office to meet with students. So really, we've made a commitment as an institution to say we're here to help you and to serve you, and I think that matters, quite honestly. Thank you.
Trustee Mosier.
I'm going to go back again, Mr. Chairman. I think we need to have a little more depth of study about those two campuses. And I mean, I think we've had since COVID now, we've had a better opportunity to get a grasp in the development of RELLIS, which is great, but I think we need to kind of have a sense of where we might be going with the Bryan campus or what all is affecting that enrollment and what those numbers, and is it going to level out, or is it, as Dr. Krausen pointed out, we are spending a pretty significant amount of money over there right now, and it needs to be done. I understand that, but at the same time, we need to kind of see where the bottom might be on this thing. And I'd like to see if the administration could provide us a little bit more thorough study of where those hours and courses and students are going, or how they're falling out, over there.
Yes, we can definitely do that.
Dr. Hensley, could you just comment on potentially looking into this matter?
Yes, we've noticed a steady lessening of enrollment at the Bryan campus over a number of years, starting primarily with COVID. I asked Becky to be prepared to answer that question because I had the question to her earlier last week as well. She was correct in noting some things that we've been able to identify so far. Though we do know that every time A&M increases their freshman class, it does impact us. It has every single time they've done it, so clearly that is a contributor. The stop out was interesting, but we had so many who just did not go back to school, period. I'm wondering if the economy has some impact on that. It's possible, keeping in mind that 70% of our students do not come from within our 14-county service area. They're traveling from home to come here. That could have an impact. They could be returning to their home and not traveling, and cut down on expenses in that respect too. Becky did a great job with her staff and checking with the National Clearinghouse, Student Clearinghouse, to try to identify the students who were at Bryan and where they are or where they are not showing up. We'll continue to track this very carefully. I believe that Bryan campus is a real stable part of the Blinn enrollment overall. It's our largest campus. It has been for years, but when it starts to go down in enrollment, we do need to watch that carefully. So we'll continue to keep you apprised on that and see if we can find out other reasons why we're seeing the drop that we're occurring. In terms of the sections and the course offerings, no, there's been no lessening of any of that. And it was interesting to me because my first thought was that they're probably transferring from Bryan over to RELLIS, and our data is showing us that that is not the case either. So this is truly a drop in students who are attending the Bryan campus only. We'll watch that also. We'll have a further discussion about this a little bit as we come into the master plan discussion, and we have a workshop on that as well. You'll remember that Gensler planned for some additional growth on the Bryan campus, and I think that we should hold on any of that until we see that enrollment starts to build back up again and remain stable. So all that we're doing right now on the Bryan campus is just staying status quo, keeping the enrollment tight, making sure the sections are meeting to full density, as I visited with Dr. Busicki about recently. And we're going to continue to monitor semester to semester and keep an eye on this one for you. Very important to the administration on this topic.
Any other questions, trustees? Okay, thank you, Dr. McBride.
Thank you.
Now we will move to the Blinn Brenham Housing Summary Report for the spring 2024 semester. Dr. McBride, I believe you're also going to give that report.
Good morning again, Dr. Hensley, Mr. Chair, members of the board. It's my pleasure this morning to also talk to you about our housing. You can see I love visuals, so our students that are happy outside some of our buildings. And just to look at where we are to date, we have a total of 1,806 beds that are available to be leased. We have 1,309 students that are physically living on campus to date. So we're at a 72.5% occupancy rate, and I think doing very well this semester. As you see here on this slide with our fill rate, you can see from fall to spring starting back in 2019, and you can see we're currently at a 72% fill rate. We were at 64% last year, so I'm very pleased to see that we have additional students on campus with us this year when compared to a year ago. We did run our returning student survey. We do it every long semester, of course, to see what students are planning on doing. And of the group that you see here that did come back to us, we did have 71 students that didn't come back because they transferred to a four-year college. So I wanted to note that the largest group that didn't come back to us this semester did transfer, and they're continuing their academic careers, and that's what we want to see. Of course, we had a couple other students enter the workforce and some others, and some went home, but the majority did continue with their education. That's what I like to hear. I'm sure you do as well. All right, we have two slides here, trustees, just a breakdown of all of our residence halls. You can see the 1,806, the total number of beds, and then just a breakdown by building. You can see all the apartments on this slide with Beasley Hall, and on the second slide, the remainder of our facility. So overall, doing very well. On our next slide here, trustees, I'd like to note we have an additional 75 students when compared to last year at this time. And you can see the increase there from 21 to 24. The number of beds we've leased has increased, and that's a really, really positive note for the college. And very pleased to say staff are doing well, and we have programs going on. And I think the students are overall satisfied with their experience with us here. So I'll take any questions, please, at this time.
One, because it's
Yes,
been a
ma'am.
long time since I've been in college, and it has to do with the fill rate from fall to spring. So it sounds like right now, quite a few of them went on to a four-year college
Yes, ma'am.
at the spring semester. Because it looks like every spring it drops, and I'm assuming that's the norm. But
Yes, ma'am.
are the other ones that we were talking about earlier where they just drop out? They didn't make the grade?
Well, and it's what they tell us, and we'll run that report again too at the end of this year to see where they ended up, you know. And sometimes, you know, I'd like to think people are transparent when they fill out our survey. Most of them are, because it involves where they live. Anytime housing sends out a survey, we get a quick response, I will tell you that. So the students do pay attention, but we'll run those numbers at the end of the year as well.
Okay,
Thank you.
Any other questions, trustees? Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Okay, we will now move into item E on the reports, presentation of the updated Quality Enhancement Plan, QEP. Dr. Busicki.
Dr. Hensley, Chancellor, the Chair, co-course members of the The board, thank you for the opportunity to share with you our plans for the college's Quality Enhancement Plan, or better known as QEP. As you know, we are in the process of undergoing reaffirmation of accreditation with the Southern Association of Colleges and Schools, SACCOC. And as part of that process, the college is expected to have an improvement plan that will take effect in 2025, and that is our QEP. The QEP is it's a very unique process in the reaffirmation. It's the only narrative that we actually address in the future. All other standards, 74 or 78, depends on how you count those, standards for SACCOC reaffirmation, they are narrated in the present or in the past continuing. In other words, we are doing currently this, but we also have been doing that. Therefore, we are in compliance with the agency's standards. So that is what we will be submitting very shortly to SACCOC. The compliance certification should be filed with the accrediting agency in the next few days. So before we do that, we would like to share with you our QEP that will be presented. It will be the last time that we'll share this with you, since it will be submitted in probably a few days. We presented the plans for QEP probably a year or maybe even a year and a half ago, and we'd like to give you a final update as we move on. And for that, I would like to invite Mr. Redding, Clay Redding, and Dean Kincaid to present to you our plans, and they are chair and co-chair respectively of the QEP committee. Thank you very much.
Good morning. Morning. Dr. Hensley, Chair Colcourse, members of the Blinn College Board of Trustees. Dr. Kincaid and I are excited to be here this morning and to update you on the Blinn College Quality Enhancement Plan. As Dr. Busicki mentioned, it was August of 2022 when we were here before to tell you about the QEP for the college and the efforts as part of our reaffirmation of accreditation. So as we begin to update you on this, the first thing we want to acknowledge is that there have been numerous changes to the QEP design from when we were here a year and a half ago. And so one of the things that we told you in August of 2022 is that we had started the process by talking to focus groups. This is various stakeholders and constituents across the Blinn College District. And one of the things that emerged from those conversations was a concern for underprepared students. And with Blinn College being an open enrollment institution, as all community colleges in the state of Texas and across the United States are, that is a concern. That is something that will happen. We don't have a selective enrollment process. And so I personally love that idea that we have a concern as a college, and that emerged from these focus groups, a real concern for underprepared students and how can we help them succeed. Out of that, we originally developed a plan where we were going to try to intervene and help students who, after their initial 12 hours at Blinn College, were on academic probation. We presented that plan to you in August of 2022. In January of 2023, an interesting thing happened. We said we were starting to move into how do we implement the plan and to build our implementation strategies. And so we began pulling the data and began looking at what would be going on right now, January 2023, if we were full-scale implementing the QEP. And what we found is that there were less than 500 students. If I remember correctly, 428 is the number that's in my mind, of students in the spring after the fall of 2022 who would have been part of our QEP population if we were implementing that. That's a good thing, right? That says that we have a lot of students coming, that the problem wasn't as significant as we thought. However, with SACCOC, with the Quality Enhancement Plan, they want to see that you're working with a sizable portion of your student body. and 428 students was not that. And so it was a good problem. It was also frustrating in a sense because we had put a lot of work and effort into designing the QEP up to that point. And so it took some time to wrap our heads around the fact we needed to make a change for the QEP to be what SAC-COC wants and what they would be willing to approve. The scope of a project is the number 3 thing as to why SAC-COC rejects quality enhancement plans. The assessment plan's the first, college commitment, which entails a whole lot of different things, and then the scope of the project is the third major reason why SACs would give recommendations or not approve a quality enhancement plan. And so the scope can either be too small or too large, and so you kind of have to get that just right. And so we went back to the design process, went back to brainstorming what do we want to do, but one of the things that was very important to us is that we stayed true to what we found from our focus groups. And that was that there was a focus and an interest on helping underprepared students. And so with that in mind, we began looking for what can we do, and we quickly came across the idea of something that Dr. Busicki had instituted in academic affairs, and that was a developmental education task force. The college academic affairs had noticed that there was kind of a growing population in developmental education courses, and Dr. Busicki, under his guidance, academic affairs had started a task force looking into this and trying to decide what it is that the college could do to help. So Dr. Kincaid and I started attending those meetings, and we decided quickly that that was an area that would be beneficial for the college, for the quality enhancement plan. And what we decided is that we wanted to hear what the task force was saying, because under Dr. Busicki's instruction, they were looking for things that could be done quickly. What are things that the college can do now in our current infrastructure, within our current budget restraints, to do things to help developmental education at Blinn College? Meanwhile, Dr. Kincaid and I and the QEP committee were able to start looking at what can we do bigger picture. What is it that we can do and propose that will help students in developmental education courses at Blinn College that maybe require some things that need to be put into the budget and kind of a grander process, if you will. And so that is kind of what we are here to update you about. One of the things that we did as we began to shift is we designed, this was an idea again from Dr. Busicki, and it has worked brilliantly. We designed a steering committee. So on this slide, you will notice there are 5 deans on this list. There are 2 assistant deans, 2 department heads, and then our vice chancellor. It's a 10-member leadership team or steering committee for the quality enhancement plan for the college. And what's working brilliantly about this idea is this gives us a small group that can get together, talk about the design, talk about the concept, talk about how to implement what we need to do. But these are folks who are over areas where the QEP is going to be implemented in the college and have key roles in those areas. So when the steering committee meets, these folks are able to go back into their parts of the college that they oversee or to the larger QEP committee and able to do more of the work. And so it's just a strategy that is working extremely well for us in far as how to approach such a huge project across the Blinn College district. And it's really made managing the project a lot more feasible for us and working extremely well. Just a reminder, what is the Quality Enhancement Plan? Dr. Busicki already addressed this. We've talked with the board about this before, but I do realize we have one new member on the board since the time that we were here before. And so the Quality Enhancement Plan, as Dr. Busicki said, is a requirement from SAC-COC as part of our reaffirmation. It's standard 7.2. And as he mentioned, it is the one that says it's a strategic plan essentially for what can the college do moving forward to address an issue that the college is having. And so that is what a quality enhancement plan is. There's 5 critical parts that the SAC-COC, our accrediting agency, will look at. They're listed there on the slide as the A, B, C, D, and E. They'll look for a topic that's identified through ongoing comprehensive planning and evaluation processes. That was why one of the things that us moving into developmental education is going to work super well with, because that was an ongoing process that we kind of moved into and said, what can we do to expand that and escalate our efforts in that regard? They also want to see the broad-based support of the institution. That's a lot of things. Are there enough people to pull off the plan? Is there enough resources? Is there enough space? All of those kinds of things go into that, budget items, et cetera. C, they're looking for what is our goal in terms of improving student learning outcomes and student success. And so the main focus for our QEP will be focused on the student success part, helping developmental education students at the college experience more success than currently they are experiencing. D is also kind of like B, the broad-based support, but specific to the resources. And then E, is again, I mentioned before, kind of the biggest reason why SAC-COC kind of gives recommendations on QEPs or rejects them is the assessment plan. And so one of the folks on our steering committee, Dr. Catherine Wicks, is kind of our assessment guru, if you will. So that's kind of her big role. And then Dr. Kincaid and myself also work a lot, and all of us on the assessment plan, but that's kind of the folks taking the lead on that regard. So here's kind of a timeline that we've been working on. We started the process very early. That turned out to be a good thing since we ran into the issue with the implementation and decided it would be in the best interest of the college to shift the population for the QEP and kind of move a little different direction. So that ended up being a really good thing for us. At the moment, we are, you see fall 2024 on the list there. We are intending to try to pilot the QEP in the fall semester. That's something that SAC-COC recommends and likes to see. It's not required, but we are trying to do that. That gives us a way to start implementing the plan before it's even reviewed by our accrediting agency, and it allows for us to troubleshoot and identify what's going well, what maybe were some challenges we didn't anticipate, and just kind of also gives us some initial baseline data. So when true implementation begins after SAC-COC reaffirmation, as Dr. Busiecki mentioned in the fall of 2025, we have some baseline data to start comparing how the QEP is doing, what are the success rates, et cetera, for that. And so that's kind of where we are on that timeline with that. So as I've mentioned a few times, we now have shifted into developmental education, providing academic support for students in this area. I'm about to pass the baton to Dr. Kincaid. She's going to walk through some of the data that led us into this population of students and kind of why we chose to put our focus there. So, Dr. Kincaid.
Thank you. Good morning, Chancellor Hensley, Chair Colcourse, trustees. I am very pleased to share with you some updated numbers today and to bring our focus from where we were to where we are, and just a quick elaboration on that context. Blinn College really is a special place. Not only were less than 10% of our student population on academic probation, but even within the population that we're looking at with the developmental education students, we still outperform the state average and the national average for our students. But as the tradition of excellence that we've had at Blinn College for so long, that's not good enough. So we want to do even better by this population and support them as much as we can. So in the numbers, by looking at the developmental education students, we are focusing on mathematics and in our humanities division with the English, the developmental integrated reading and writing students. I have here for you, we have all of the numbers, but for our purposes today, we are going to do fall comparisons. So I have for you a total enrollment from fall 23 available to you. And the district total for developmental education students for the fall 2023 semester was 2,569. And that may sound like it's still a small number given what the QEP is wanting, but I have a few other numbers to share with you. If you look to the right of the screen, that is just how many on the left actually enrolled. How many we have eligible to enroll is over 5,000 students. And that's a much more significant, almost 30% of our enrollment. So the reason why some are not, they are entering other courses that do not require college readiness. They are going into workforce. They are finding other programs at Blinn College that do not yet require them to be college ready. So there is what we are actually serving, and then a large portion that we have the potential to serve or will be serving at some point in their time in their enrollment at Blinn College. I also have for you, not on a slide yet, but I did email it to Tiffany, who will provide it for you. I have this semester's numbers. They will change just a little because Math 0300 offers second 8-week online enrollment. So we, of course, do not have the total numbers there, but a snapshot of today. We currently have this semester 1,520 students district-wide enrolled in developmental education. So we know the ebb and flow between the fall and the spring semesters, and this is part of what we hope to address, is by finding that success for these students earlier, we then can increase enrollment in our courses that require the academic readiness, the college readiness, but then that will increase enrollment overall. But we hope that our developmental education numbers will have to go down over time because we're not having repeat students, right? Where they take the course, did not succeed the first time, and then have to persist in the developmental education course again. So we do expect this to have an impact overall on an enrollment and improve that. So that number will be provided to you. Just for some context, when we are talking about these, in 2017, the 85th legislature implemented the co-rec model and passed legislation for scaling that up. And so we are now at that scale, and that was another place where Blinn College led the way. We scaled rather quickly. To shed some more good light on Blinn's position, but then to raise the caution that we need, according to the Texas Higher Education Coordinating Board, in the state of Texas, more than 40% of students who enter a higher education institution are not yet college ready. We're hovering around 28% of our students. Yes, sir.
Just curious, what metric is used to determine if someone is college ready or not? And how do you get that information?
Primarily through the TSIA test scores. So it is the test that they are given. It's a state test that is given, and we use the metrics from those scores or those tests to determine college readiness. So again, Blinn is better positioned than most, but we still have room for improvement, which again makes this a population really well suited for the QEP.
Ask a quick question before I forget it, and it kind of piggybacks on yours. In the past, but maybe it's changed, developmental courses didn't count the credit hours. Do they count? Like if you take a course for developmental math?
So for clarification, do we count them in terms of semester credit hours and count them in enrollment? Yes. Do they count towards the degree plan? No, ma'am.
Okay, that's what I remembered from before. Okay.
Yes, ma'am. Okay, just a quick snapshot here, and looking at the number of faculty, there is not a dramatic change this semester from fall. The numbers are pretty much the same here. And again, just to remind everyone, the 03XX, it's much easier for English. We have 2 developmental education courses. We have 0327, which is where the vast majority of our students are enrolled, and then we have 0238. But in this semester, I think we have 15 students district-wide enrolled in that one. And that one is mandated by the state. Those students just barely missed the mark for being college ready, and the state asks us to then provide that extra bit of support. It is not needed in the co-rec model. It stands on its own, and we do well with that. So most of our numbers, just so you know, we do have the 2, but the vast majority of the population for those who are in under humanities are in the DRW 0327. So we only have that number here for you. With math, there are 5 developmental courses. And so the 0314, 0324, 0332, and 0342 have their co-rec component. Math 0300 stands alone. And that's for the students who come in at the lowest scoring and then have the intensity of that course without then the pressure of a co-rec. So when we break down the numbers here, we separate Math 0300 from the others, so that one is at the bottom. The other 4 math developmental education courses are identified in that top table. And that, if you look to the far left, this is a total from fall 2020 to fall 2023. So total enrollment there was 6,787 students. Of those, 79% completed. The successful completion, which meant C or better in these courses, was 53%. Those who did not successfully complete was almost 26%, and the withdrawals and the drops were almost, but just under 21%. When we look at the standalone Math 0300, for that same time frame, the total enrollment was 3,950. The completion total, which is an average across this, was 83%. Those who successfully completed, the average was almost 39%. And I will remind you, this is better than the state and the national averages on these. The college-ready total average was just under 10%. And then the unsuccessful completion was almost 45%, and then the total with the Q and the Q drops and the withdrawals was 16%. And just to offer some clarification here, one of the reasons why Math 0300 stands apart from the others, and I want to thank the Mathematics and Business Division Operations Coordinator, Rebecca Reyes, for helping me understand these so that I can help you understand these. She has been quite instrumental in my education for the mathematics courses. So with the successful completion, the grades are different in Math 0300. So there are 3 possible grades. There's the PIA, which means that they pass intermediate algebra. And that means they have the module that they go through for this course, they have to have successfully completed 90% of that. So the bar is good there. Once they do that, they're college ready. They do not need to go into the co-rec model. They can go right into the college credit bearing course in mathematics. For those who get the grade of M that they have mastered, that is 50 to 90% of that completion of those modules. They then go into, it is still considered successful completion, but they then go into the co-rec model, whichever one is appropriate for their STEM path or their non-STEM path. And if they get an IP that is in progress, that is below the 50%, they remain in that Math 0300 course. Any questions on those? Okay. So we will go then to the DIRW. And again, I don't include numbers here for the 0238 because the highest population we've had in that so far, I believe, was 19 students district-wide. Not that they are negligible, but in the bigger picture, right, they don't factor in as much. They're already this close to succeeding, and most of those students do just fine. They're ready usually to go straight from that course onto their college credit-bearing course. So again, the same time frame for fair comparison, fall 2020 to fall 2023. For the DIRW 0327, we had 5,798 total students enrolled. Of that, we had an 80% completion rate. The successful completion rate was just under 48%. The unsuccessful completion rate was around 32%, and then our drop and withdrawal was just under 20%. When we look at the co-rec performance rate, we are now looking at, on the bottom chart, the college credit-bearing course in this. And the reason why I set this apart, and in particular here, is this is the gateway then to opening up students' possibility to enroll in so many other college credit-bearing courses.
that have the reading and writing readiness as a prereq requirement. So this impacts students' capacity to enroll in a lot of other future classes for their degree plans. So obviously, they're co-req, so the enrollment total is exactly the same. Completion average, just around 76%. Successful completion, almost 42%. The unsuccessful completion was 34%, and then the drop and withdrawal was just under 24%. And here it is the straightforward grade scale that you expect in all the classes, the A through the F scale. So successful completion meant that the students made a C or better. So then we have some interventions within the QEP, and this is really at the heart of what the QEP does to support these students. And I would like to say, if I could for a moment, the spirit of collaboration at Blinn College is remarkable. Our aspirations towards excellence and the way that we work together is fantastic. So the SAC-COC standard does expect us to be a college-wide enterprise, and it has been that. We have had the support from Dr. McBride. We have had support from, of course, academic affairs with Dr. Busiki's leadership and guidance. But even within that, there is, though Dr. Langenegger falls under academic affairs, I feel compelled to call her out individually because she is going to bear a lot of the implementation burden. Because if you look at the services that we're going to provide for intervention, many of those fall under her direct purview with the Learning Center, the instructional design, the libraries, professional development, the Center for Teaching and Learning, and convocation to make sure that we get the message and the training out to faculty. So she is doing a heavy lift here, and I wanted to thank Dr. Langenegger for her cooperation and support in this process. So if we move from left to right, primarily we are going to look at professional development, and we're focusing on literacy-focused pedagogy. Dr. Busiki was fantastic about walking around, visiting with faculty, and listening to what they have to say. And part of what was a catalyst to move this forward were some of the developmental education faculty, primarily in mathematics, came to Dr. Busiki voicing their concerns. He then reached out further, and he was hearing the same concerns from the English faculty who are teaching JRW about students need to improve their literacy skills. So that was heard and integrated into this, and it's going to be a primary focus of our model moving forward to support the students. So within that, what we mean by the professional development and looking at literacy-focused pedagogy, we are going to bring in experts in the field who can help teach and present ideas and models to improve instruction that focuses on literacy for our students. Because as most of us in the room know, if you struggle with reading and you struggle with literacy, you're going to struggle to do your math work because you're struggling with the textbook, you're struggling with reading the assignments. And quite frankly, if you are having a hard time reading, you are absolutely going to have a hard time writing. So we knew we needed to start here. Within that, the Center for Teaching and Learning is also going to rely on the talent that we have in-house and have workshops. These will be open to all faculty who want to integrate literacy-focused pedagogy into their courses, but of course our concentration is going to be on the developmental education courses. Academic support, as I mentioned, the literacy, instruction, and online support modules. So we will be working with instructional design. Again, thank you, Dr. Langenegger, for that. Dr. McBride's side of the house, advising is going to be instrumental to making sure that we cooperate with building schedules for students from the outset that are going to help set them up for success, and looking at those balanced schedules are going to be really important to that. So we've already started those conversations. Then we're looking at the role of tutoring. So again, these facilities within the college are going to be instrumental. I am really proud to report this is a faculty-led initiative. The Developmental Education Task Force is a cooperation with, and I would like to thank Victoria Fowler, who is here, Assistant Dean in Mathematics, and The department head for parallel studies in my division, Sandra Chumchall, their cooperation with their faculty and that DevEd task force has been instrumental in helping identify the needs and what we need to do to support these students. And I will stand for any questions you have.
May I ask a question?
Yes,
Dr.
ma'am.
Kincaid? On the reading and writing courses, of the students that do not successfully complete the course or withdraw, do they, what is the, do they go back and repeat the course? What, do we have a rate of returning back into that course to become successful?
Yes, ma'am. For the students who do not succeed, they cannot move out of the co-rec model until they successfully complete that. So they are then advised to take that course again. And this is again where we cooperate on the academic side with advising to make sure that we then relook at their schedule to see if there are any areas that we can provide additional support. One component that is not included here for the students who are in the DIRW courses, they also enroll in our EDUC 1300, which is a learning frameworks course that provides support to students to help them understand how to learn, what it means to learn, and to be introspective and self-reflective and self-assess how they learn themselves to then improve their capacity to learn.
Thank you so much.
Yes,
It
ma'am.
just seems like an outstanding program with the input of so many people. And it is just so wonderful to know that we are focused on meeting students where they are, and seems to be, to me, in perfect alignment with the mission of this college to build better communities by providing quality education to empower students to achieve excellence in their academic careers and personal goals. Thank you so much.
Yes, and thank you.
Dr. Kincaid, so basically the goal of the QEP program is to raise the successful completion average,
Yes, sir.
correct?
Yes, sir.
That's what our
We
goal is.
want students not only to succeed earlier so that they can move on to their academic degree programs, but we want to make sure that that success sets them up for their future success. So that when they're in those college credit-bearing courses, in their academic degree programs, they will continue to be successful.
Question, and kind of in layman's terms, how are you going to do that? You're going to provide training, literacy training for the instructors? Is that kind
Yes.
of that in a nutshell?
Yes, yes. So we're going to focus on a literacy-focused pedagogy that will provide the instruction and the guidance and the skills needed for faculty to be able to integrate those into their own courses to improve. So if you don't mind, people who don't have this area of expertise don't tend to have the awareness of the background that is required. So for reading and literacy, that is specialized within education and higher education. So it is quite likely that most faculty, regardless of what course they teach and what discipline they're in, probably didn't get a background in or instruction on how to teach literacy within that discipline. And so that is something that we want to then look at here. So big picture, long term, this will help our developmental education students for sure. But if we look at literacy across the curriculum, this is going to have a ripple effect across the college and help bolster the success of all of our students.
Dr. Kincaid, thank you for excellent reporting to the QEP steering committee. It's amazing that a faculty-driven group can come together and pull this. Coming out of COVID, where there were so many challenges that created educational lags, not is it important just to meet SAC's requirements, but we're seeing a trend where ultimately students are having more and more challenges. So I want to thank you all for making certain that, in an old adage, no child is left behind.
Thank you, Trustee Wells.
Well said. Any other questions by the group? Dr. Hensley?
Congratulations on a job well done. Trustees, I've worked closely with Clay and with April and with the committee. They have done a marvelous job. They've been at this hard every day for a year and a half. And particularly a couple of things of note. We started down one pathway and then completely changed. I don't know of another college that has done that. And they did it because we needed to. We could see in advance that we weren't within that number that we needed to hit for our sampling and so forth. I wondered a couple of things. Did you reflect when you were hearing this about the developmental numbers? And did you reflect on Dr. McBride's reference to the developmental education and the impact that it is having on our enrollment at the Bryan campus? There's a direct correlation there. And these kinds of programs, if we can have these students become college ready, then they are going to stay and remain at Blinn. So a program like this is exceedingly important. Trustees, how does this impact you? This is part of the major component of our SACS accreditation. When our site team comes next fall, they will ask you, do you know what the QEP is? Do you recall the name? It was on the first slide this morning. I see a couple of you flipping back. Horizons, guiding students towards success. And they're going to ask you, what is your QEP all about? So I'm particularly grateful for those who got us to this point, our wonderful faculty and staff, and our leadership and our chair and co-chair. A great job, and please give our tremendous appreciation to those who were involved. And this is still rolling down the track, trustees, as our site visit comes to occur next October, I believe it is.
Yes, ma'am.
And so we'll actually have all of this culminate at that point in time. But most importantly, I thank you, trustees, for your acceptance and willing to hear all about the QEP in depth and on more than one occasion. And to the data level that we touched on today is so important. So I thank you all. Great job as always. Appreciate you.
Thank you. And the support from our chancellor, from the executive council of the college, and from the board of trustees is something that Dr. Kincaid and I repeatedly kind of communicate to the team, to the large committee, and it means the world. And so we're appreciative of your time and support on the project. Thank you.
And just a quick note, and then Clay, I'm happy to give you the final word. Just so you don't think that we abandoned the students who are on academic probation, we have not. There is a Future Works project that was approved last year that is addressing the needs of those students. So they were not set aside.
I have one last question. Well,
Yes, ma'am.
you can answer it, Dr. Well,
I
would
talk
like
too much.
No, I would like to know a little bit more about the students, once they take the course, how many have to repeat it again? Because I had many students that I have a feeling went into this coursework, and I know after you do it twice, or once even, it can become burdensome for that student. And it sounds like it's great, and I mean, y'all have a plan of how to help those kids, but I'm curious now how many students have to keep repeating it.
So I don't have that number immediately accessible to me, but I can find out. I can tell you by looking at these numbers, a second repeat is a higher number. But once we get that point, they tend to do much better.
I mean, because this will definitely help.
Yes,
them.
yes. So we don't have that many who are in the third attempt. And in complete honesty and frankness, some students sadly are going to abandon that effort. But with the legislature's restructuring our funding, I am very proud to say that Vice Chancellor Jay Anderson is going to feature prominently in part of with the advising and looking at these students. We can have those conversations and say, maybe this side of the house is a future goal. Maybe your immediate goal is to go and visit with Vice Chancellor Anderson's side of the house, and let's get some of those stackable credentials. Let's get you some certificates. Let's start improving your immediate economic situation. And then with some time and some growth and confidence, you're ready to come back, and we welcome you on that academic side of the house.
And then one last thing, and then I'll be quiet. But with the new funding, that's one of the things, and you kind of answered it, but we get credit hours for funding with the developmental courses?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
We will be financially supported by the state in doing what is best for our students.
Layton, please.
Trustee Ayler, I'm going to jump in on that. Remember,
Okay.
trustees, we get 0 state funding for contact hours. 0.
Okay.
Our state funding is based on outcomes-based metrics. Those 3 outcomes-based metrics, which none of this would apply to.
That's
It's
what I
getting them to the next level to apply. Remember, that's 97 or 8% of our state funding now comes from the 3 outcomes-based metrics. So connected with this conversation and with the earlier conversation about enrollment, contact hours don't mean anything anymore.
So it'd be
It's metrics for us to judge,
Right.
but contact hours mean nothing from a state funding perspective any longer.
It's those credentials of value, yes?
It's credentials of value, completion of 15 hours and transfer to a 4-year enrollment, or completing a co-enrollment program, or 15 hours of dual credit while in high school. Those are the 3, as you all know. So these don't feed into that. It feeds into the potential for that student to earn that
The goal.
after they pass these courses.
Correct. You'll recall, trustees, I told you at the beginning of this fiscal year, we used to talk enrollment, contact hour, contact hour, contact hour. And now it's completely changed.
Mm-hmm.
And you probably will recall that Blinn was very good among all community colleges in getting success points in the prior formula. And we did used to get success point funding for completion of developmental ed for students. So having them enter into developmental ed, coming out of developmental ed, there was success point funding, and then transitioning into college credit, and then the completion of 15 hours and so forth. Those no longer apply. So this is why I referenced again a moment about, with Dr. McBride's a report on the number of developmental ed that we have. We have a population here that needs our assistance, that are leaving their homes to come to this community to take developmental education. And we're trying to focus very much on it with the QEP on having them become successful so that we can move them in to the 15 hours that we need for the funding. It all begins to connect. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you guys very much for that great presentation. We're going to move on to item F, presentation of proposal for tuition and fees for fiscal year 2024-2025. Dr. Burton, you're back up again.
Again, good afternoon. This is a recap of the presentation that we gave at the BAIF earlier this month. So just reviewing that. This is, we're only discussing the tuition and fees portion of the budget. Okay, where we are in the budget planning process, right now we're at what I call 3 o'clock. Over the fall, we gained information, gathered it, and now we're in the process of doing analysis and development. This calendar here shows the expectations of administration. We are today presenting you with the tuition and fees for discussion. Coming up in April, that tuition and fees with board approval will be transmitted out to the public. Again, way typical discussions I've gone through. We start off with cash. The cash and cash equivalent had a jump in 2021 of about 26 million, and it's been staying steady. Keep in mind that 26 million was the HERF funding, the COVID-19 funds. This again shows the pie chart where we have 60 million in unrestricted reserves, and then 32 million for current projects and 36 million for future projects. Outstanding debt. One of the key issues here is that we had an increase in 2021, and from what I understand, that was for the STI building, selling bonds for that. And now this is where the bond payment schedule has gone down from 113 million to roughly 95 million. The total debt service will remain steady between now and 2032 at about 7.5 million. After that, one of our bonds will be paid off and we'll go from 6.1 million all the way to 2040. Our revenues, Blinn has a history of budgeting below our revenues, and every year since 2019, Blinn has met the budget as far as revenues. Percentage of revenue by sources, It's been pretty steady for the previous years, budget-wise. Coming up in 2025, for the fiscal year there, we are anticipating, because of House Bill 8, an additional funding. This year, we got 32 million instead of the 26 million we budgeted. So you'll see the blue go up in 2025 when we get that budget, and then the red come down as a percentage. House Bill 8, we received again an increase in appropriations over budget of 6.2 million, 6.3 million. There'll be updated rules for fiscal year 2025, and we won't know those till mid-April. Now, we just don't know the details of, well, where we're going to be in mid-April, but we're assuming with this budget process and planning our tuition that we will remain the same that we received previous year. Mr. Schubert, any thoughts?
Thank you, Clint. Trustees, we continue to monitor the coordinating board rulemaking process. The coordinating board has released a summary of the changes under their proposed rules. After analyzing that, I'm still not seeing anything that will impact us to a degree where we would want to reduce this amount of money that you're seeing. They're sort of tinkering on the edges at this point with weights and averages. They're not getting into the details that would really affect the funding and the projections. As you know, the coordinating board is going through that process. They're requesting lots of data from us, and we're hoping to have, before this budget cycle is finished, maybe some new projections for funding for next year for FY25. We'll keep you updated, but no projections yet at this point for what we're going to be receiving under FY25 from the state.
Moving forward, tuition and fee proposal. As you can see, one point that the Blinn administration always wants to bring to the trustees' attention is how our revenue is divided. You can see the red there. That is local property tax. Blinn is always the lowest in the state of Texas. But on the other side, the green is tuition, and Blinn is always the highest in tuition. State appropriations, as a percentage, we're probably right around the average. But that is, Blinn is a tuition-driven institution, more so than any other community college in the state of Texas. When calculating a projected tuition and fees revenue, we assumed that we would be on 377,000 credit hours. That takes last spring, this past summer, and this past fall credit hours, and that's where we built the model upon. Going forward, the model that we worked on consists of a $1 increase of in-district, a $1 increase of out-of-district, a $1 increase for non-resident, and a $3 increase in fees. Throwing in those factors, that would generate, budget-wise, an additional $1.4 million, $1.5 million in additional tuition revenue. Going through, the per credit hour, the in-district fee would go up $1 in tuition and $3 in fee, general fee. Out of district, same thing, $1 increase per hour plus $3 increase in fee. And non-resident, $1 increase in tuition and a $3 increase in fee. Looking at the 12-hour student, for in-district, it would be $12 increase in tuition and a $36 increase in fees, and it would be the same for all other elements, the in-district, out-of-district, and non-resident. Going through, this just shows the tuition and fee history, that it has increased, but it's been a very gradual increase. One of the emphasis that was placed upon me is that we don't have a shock to the student with a sudden increase if we go years without increasing and then suddenly need to increase. Auxiliary housing. What this slide is showing is that Blinn will tear down 4 separate dorms coming up. And so we've been budgeting with those 4 dorms existing. And so we're removing those dorms from the budget, and thus we need to reduce our budget down by $380,000 for dormitories. This assumes an 82% occupancy rate and a 1% increase in fees. Going forward with auxiliary meal plan, even though our dorm numbers are increasing, our meal plans should be similar because the P3s are required to do the dorms. So the P3s are required to do meal plans. Our operating expenses, again, what this slide is showing is that Blinn has a history of budgeting expenses and not spending up to that amount. Our revenues, expenses net, if you look, the bottom line down there, the yellow with the net without HERF, that shows that Blinn has been able to add to its reserves and other functions every year. But the main point here is that we had a net increase in 21 and 22 because of the COVID funding from the federal government. Going forward, an element in creating the need for tuition was we had to look at our historical pay increases and our pay increases. Faculty and staff have been pretty much walking side by side. Maybe there have been some difference in elements depending on where you were in the pay scale, but longevity, this budget includes a $400 increase in longevity pay for every year, and then part-time faculty has received increases over time. In creating this budget, the estimated cost of a 1% full-time increase is $606,000 per 1%. We've also included a $400 per year for longevity fee. Again, the important emphasis here is today, we're not setting salaries. There'll be more discussion about that later this spring. Course testing fees, every fee that we have here is a pass-through fee. For example, nurses take practice tests to prepare. That's included in their tuition so that their financial aid can help them pay for these practice tests. This is primarily for the nursing department. Additional, again, same pass-through fees, no additional fees created by the college. In addition, we're removing course fees for courses that no longer exist. Going through an additional element in this budget is Waller. There'll be additional workforce training, dual credit, and facilities, and that has been placed into the budget for as a placeholder. Another element in this budget is the men's, women's cross-country team. The budget, the amount we're proposing includes a coach, travel, uniforms and supplies, and scholarships. And these are full scholarships that are included in this discussion. And the last element is an amount to implement FAST, which is the
You almost got it.
oh, okay, thank you, Tiffany. Financial aid for swift transfer. Okay, it wasn't obvious. Ms. Schubert, would you like to have any comment on this?
I'm happy to comment. Trustees, you've heard me talk a lot about FAST, and we're continuing to analyze FAST. I've had some very interesting conversations, just as a side note, with some of our other colleges and other colleagues at colleges, because everyone's trying to figure this out, because this is all just getting rolled out. It started in the fall. Some colleges started it in the fall. Some are starting it this spring. Some have yet to decide, and so they're going through those processes. We've had a lot of good discussion about the operations of this program. There are some very interesting operational peculiarities when it comes to FAST, and I'm not going to bore you with all those, but we're working those out with our other colleges about how they've done it, how they've rolled it out, so we're being very methodical about this. Course board, as you've mentioned, you've given us the direction that we want to pursue FAST for the fall of '24. We're continuing that. You'll see an action item upcoming in a next board meeting that will have that approval. But we are discussing this with other colleges because we want to have a very methodical and strategic rollout of this because it is a fundamental change to dual credit. And not to steal Dr. Burton's thunder, but we've analyzed FAST, the tuition fees in two different directions. One, if we don't do FAST, and one, if we do FAST. And what we've discovered, I will say this, to my surprise, the revenues are actually pretty much equal. We're not really different if we're doing fast or not doing fast from a revenue perspective. I was surprised by that, but that's what the numbers are showing, so we're encouraged by that. And what's backing up those numbers is we have submitted our rosters, our dual credit rosters, to the coordinating board every semester of FAST, and they tell us how many students from our dual credit rosters would qualify for FAST eligibility. We have actually a very small number. Of about the 2,000 dual credit students in the fall, only 619 of them are FAST eligible. And remember, FAST eligible are free or reduced lunch. Anytime in the last 4 years, if you qualified for free or reduced lunch, you are FAST eligible. That's the gatekeeper. So less than a third of our dual credit students are FAST eligible. So that means the vast majority of our students will be paying that $55 per semester credit hour, which is also a requirement under FAST. We have estimated expenses, because as you're aware, the students who are FAST eligible, not only can they be charged zero for tuition and fees, they can also not have any sort of financial obligation for attending those courses. And that also covers, according to coordinating board regulations, if they need a laptop. So if they're a fully online dual credit student, they cannot be required to charge a laptop, to buy a laptop, to buy internet, to buy a hotspot, to buy books. They can't be required for any of those items. So those 619 students, that's where this $205,000 figure comes from. Once again, this is a budget analysis and preparation. We are not going to be shouldering all of those costs. We're going to be working with our ISD partners to share those costs. We're not to those conversations yet, but we've estimated here the maximum number. If Blinn covered all of that, that's where that $205,000 figure is. So we wanted to be very conservative in our budget projections. I don't believe that's going to be the actual cost, but once again, we want to estimate high, come under that budget as we work with our ISDs on what they're going to provide. Happy to answer any other questions about FAST. Once again, you will see an action item, I believe, at the April meeting for that one. Thank you.
Moving forward, this slide compiles all the information that you've received previously. On the top, we have the revenues. Again, we talked about the increase in state appropriations, the increase in tuition, the increase in housing rates and occupancy estimates, and then increase in food services. This turns out to be about a $7.4 million increase in the revenue budget. On the proposed cost, we have a slight decrease in debt service. We're taking the R&R out of the budget and moving that into the R&R reserves that we've set aside. The full-time employee salary, that's the variable here. 1% is 606, all the way up to 6%, which is $3.6 million. The longevity is $158,000. The proposed budget request, personnel is setting aside $1 million. Operational budget request, which includes additional utility, insurance, other elements that Ms. Beckendorf has identified and others. We've set aside $1.7 million. Waller expenses, we've added $300,000. Men and women's cross country, $351,000. And then, as we just discussed, the FAST expenses for a total, ranging between 4.3 and 7.3 million dollars to change the budget. So this slide, any discussion or comments or questions?
Trustees, I'd like to draw your attention to the men and women's cross-country team line item. And we discussed that at great length at the workshop, and you saw a lower number at that time. And Scott Schumacher, our athletic director, was here to go over those costs with you. We determined that after that discussion then that we would move those operational costs up to $125,000 for kind of basic operations. And then NJCAA allows 10 scholarships for men and 10 scholarships for women. Our conference, Region 14, is unique, unlike any other conference in the state of Texas. We are only allowed to offer scholarships at the 75% range. So if we are allowed 10 scholarships by NJCAA, by Region 14 conference, we are only allowed 7.5 scholarships. Those are full scholarships. They can be distributed, to more than just 7 students, but you're only allowed to have the value of that scholarship. So that's why you see the increase in the expenses on the men's and women's cross country. This is 7.5 scholarships for men, 7.5 scholarships for women, and the 125 increase on the operational cost. Chris or Dr. Burton, anything you would like to add to that?
No, that's pretty much just why there was a change between last committee discussion and now.
And everything that you discussed in the last workshop, we have incorporated into this budget that you're seeing today so that it continues to be a balanced budget.
That's correct, yes, ma'am. Any additional comment? And that concludes the presentation. Are there any questions or comments?
Mr. Chairman, could we, maybe on OneNote or something, could we get a response on the income or what would be generated to the plus side on the track,
On the soccer, I'm sorry.
Cross-country.
Cross-country.
Yeah.
Anticipated number of students that we think that program may
And
bring.
what it would mean on the positive for the college.
Happy to do that. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions?
I just wanted to mention one more thing, pardon me. We will be proceeding with posting that position for the coach, and so that will probably go out this week. And then once that person is hired, remember, we're starting with just one coach for both men's and women's, and then they'll start recruiting right away so that we'll have those students ready to enroll for the fall semester. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much. We will now move into the consent item portion of our agenda. All items listed in this portion of the agenda are considered to be routine by the Board of Trustees and will be enacted upon one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a trustee so requests, in which event the item will be removed from consent and considered in discussion and possible action. Trustees received agenda materials in advance of the meeting to prepare for the business to be conducted. On the agenda today, we've got minutes of a couple of meetings and then the lengthy list of proposed amendments that we all went over at the budget meeting. I would propose a motion to pass all of those.
I move for full adoption. of the
Trustee
consent
Wells,
agenda.
Trustee Aylert, all in favor, please say aye. All opposed, consent agenda passes. Okay, we'll move into item 6, discussion and possible action items, approval of the proposed updated strategic plan. Mr. Schubert.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Dr. Hensley, trustees. Want to give just a brief presentation. I know this was presented at the workshop on February 8th on the strategic plan updates. Trustees, fortunately, you're not going to hear from me on this one. You're going to hear from Dr. Steve Johnson, our consultant on this. But before Dr. Steve Johnson comes up and gives the presentation, I just want to make a personal note here. I want to thank the Strategic Planning Committee. Has put a lot of work into this over the past several months. I also want to thank all the folks around Blinn that engaged in this process, whether it was part of the Strategic Planning Committee, whether it was doing the anonymous survey, whether it was being in a focus group, whatever that was. This was truly a district-wide effort, and I want to personally give my thanks to everyone that was involved in this, informally and formally. And I'm going to pass the baton to Dr. Steve Johnson, who is our outside consultant, who is working on this process. We also have George Guajardo here in the office of IR&E, who can answer any questions as well, and we'll give Steve Johnson and then happy to answer any questions. Steve?
Thanks, Leighton. Good morning, or actually, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for having me, Chancellor Hensley, Chairman Colcourse, members of the committee. I'm going to go through this fairly quickly because you've seen it in the workshop before, and so I don't want to belabor this in the interest of time, but would be happy to answer any questions you might have as we go through this. As I said, you've seen it before, so nothing has changed since then. If you remember, we talked a little bit about the strategic plan overview. I'm sure many of you have done this in your own careers and life of a strategic plan. Typically, it's driven around a mission and vision statement, which we've included here for you all to be able to review. I know you're familiar with it. Trustee Kettler, you were just talking about it, the mission itself and how the college goes about meeting that mission. So the strategic plan is a way to try to enact initiatives and objectives to achieve that mission and the vision itself. So we went through a fairly extensive process. Mr. Schubert mentioned some of that. Let me echo what he said. I was so impressed with the Blinn staff, the capabilities of your staff to be able to go through this process, but probably more important, the buy-in from staff and faculty to be a part of this process on the SWOT analysis, the survey we did, but also in the focus groups we led. They were very, very well attended and very well we had folks who were not shy to tell us what they thought, and that's important in focus groups. So you can see here we had the Strategic Planning Committee, which still exists and will continue to exist as we go through this iterative process. There are 16 members from all across the college. They worked across this fall and into the first part of the year here. They met as a whole committee multiple times, and then we broke into subcommittees based around those 3 strategic priorities that the college already has, so that they could do a little bit deeper dive on those priorities. Just for your information, these are the folks that are on the Strategic Planning Committee, and you can see they are a wide variety of staff and faculty from across the college. So the process itself, we went through the Strategic Planning Committee doing an analysis. Of course, we talked about the SWOT survey itself. We had really good response there. And that was from across the college as well. George and I, Gerardo, decided to divide that analysis up. So we each did our analysis of the results of that, and we're happy to see that they sort of synced up and we got common themes across that. We presented to the Executive Council, and one of the good pieces of recommendation they gave us was maybe we should do some focus groups to get some better information, do a little deeper dive. And so we led 3 of those across the institution. Here you can just see the participants of the SWOT survey. I know you've seen this before. We had 181 total. It's about a 17% response rate, which at a large institution like this is really not that far off of what we usually expect. 15 to 20% is about what you'd expect. So then we did lead these focus groups. We led them both here on the Brenham campus as well as the Bryan campus. They were well attended, and we did allow for video conferencing options in the interest of trying to provide as much access as possible. Typically in focus groups, those are a little harder to do by virtual, but we're all used to a Zoom world now, so we did offer that. And it did allow for multiple folks to attend and participate with us. So let's talk about the recommendations quickly. I won't belabor this because you just had a fantastic presentation on your QEP. But clearly when we looked at this first priority of student success, the QEP was something that we focused in on, and specifically these list of interventions, and of course, what you just heard, particularly on developmental education, which lays the groundwork for student success across the institution. So QEP and following through on the QEP is really the first strategic priority here when we think about student success. Second one, of course, and this is, as you remember, a common theme throughout all 3 of these, and that's the performance-based funding methodology, HB8, and aligning the student success initiatives at the college with that outcomes-based funding. Mr. Schubert already listed for you those 3 outcomes-based metrics. Clearly, those drive student success, and so the more you wrap around those services to achieve those dollars, you also achieve that student success. The third initiative here is really increasing that awareness of graduation pathways, and you heard a little bit about that from the QEP as well as from Dr. Busicki. That's both traditional graduation communicating, because there are students who get to the point and don't file for graduation and don't get their diplomas and don't complete simply because they don't finish the paperwork. And so there's some low-hanging fruit there that you can really go after. Same thing with the Lost Graduates program. I think one of the things we see across the state, though, are the reverse transfer programs, where you have students that have been at Blinn, earned hours here, moved on to another institution, but then generate enough sufficient hours to have their degree here at Blinn granted. So you reverse transfer that back. And so those are 3 kind of key areas to go through and advance awareness around graduation pathways. Before I move on to priority 2, are there questions here on the student success priority? Great. Performance excellence. So the first initiative we looked at, and we heard consistently in both the SWOT analysis and the focus groups, was around communications, both internal and external. So that's internal stakeholders as well as external. There was a lot of positive feedback, but there was also a sense that there could be more efforts put in way to better communicate the excellence that is this institution, both to internal stakeholders, and that includes students, but also external stakeholders. I was very impressed, though. We had a chance to meet with the campus advisory groups, both here in Brenham and in Bryan, and just the wonderful feedback we got from those members, community members, about what they saw as the performance excellence here at this institution. The second one is initiative number 2, and that's professional development and training. You heard a little bit about that from some of the presentations before. I think key here is consolidating that available training inventory, because there's many opportunities that exist for Blinn faculty and staff now, but there's the need to kind of make that in a cohesive inventory so everyone knows what's available. Sort of feeds back up into the stakeholder communication too, to be able to feed that information to those that are here on campus. Initiative number 3 is once again HB8, and here we're specifically looking at how do you align your student support services to drive the outcomes you want based on HB8. Clearly, credential of value is one of the key things that we see in the outcomes-based funding model, and the transfer as well. I think one of the things that we're going to see in this next legislative session, and Leighton and I have talked a little bit about this because I've talked to others, is the current legislation only sees transfer to public four-year institutions as achieving that. And so there are private institutions, both in-state and out-state, that would like to see that change. And there are students here at Blinn that transfer to private institutions as well. So we see that as critically important, and not just at community colleges, but I talk to colleagues in the private school world and elsewhere, and they all feel it's critically important. So we should see that adjusted next session. But for purposes here, it's really a notion of trying to align the student support services within the college as best as possible to drive that performance excellence around HB8. Any questions on that one, on priority 2? Okay, let's talk quickly about priority 3. So this is planned growth. I have been amazed and wonderfully impressed with your facilities master plan. The level of detail that is in there allowed us to really frame some of the work we did around the SWOT analysis and even some of the focus groups because of the information that was in there. But of course, as we think about how you think of planned growth, this is a key element in that. One of the things we wanted to stress, though, was that this is in conjunction with you as the Board of Trustees to make those decisions on facilities, both current facilities and future facilities moving forward. So the second one looks particularly at current facilities, so strategic initiative number 2. Here, the goal is to optimize current facilities to best support the work that's going on here at Blinn. I don't think that surprises anyone, but I think we felt it was important, and we heard, particularly from SWOT analysis, that need to emphasize continued improvement within current facilities, keeping them up to date. And then our friend again, HB8, is the third initiative here. And once again, if you're thinking about how do you plan to grow with your growth in Waller and other places, always keeping in mind these three outcomes-based metrics, and all of these things is critically important. And I know there was some discussion earlier. I spent a long time at the Texas Association of Community Colleges when contact hours was the coin of the realm, and it is no longer the coin of the realm. And I think that's a good thing long term. It gives you as board much more ability to try to make adjustments in the institution to drive state revenue than simply what's our enrollment, what's our contact hours. Any questions on priority 3? Terrific. So the next steps, well, we're at this step right now, the February 20th board meeting, for you guys to discuss and potentially adopt. I would stress, though, that this is an ongoing process. This isn't something that's discrete, we're done, you put it to the side and you move on. The Strategic Planning Committee will continue to meet. They will continue to review, because part of that life cycle at the beginning, the chart that I showed you, is a repeat process. You come through, it's a loop, right? And so as you gain information and you measure the outcomes and the metrics, then you make adjustments to the strategic plan moving forward. So that's what I have for you. We're happy to answer any questions. We've got Leighton, of course, and George here. If you've got any real detailed questions on data analysis, George can help you out. But thank you all so much. I really appreciate it. It's been a wonderful experience and opportunity to work with your incredible staff here.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions about the 3 priorities, strategic priorities of the strategic plan?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We are looking for a motion for approval by the board.
I would entertain a motion. Trustee Benke, Trustee Kraus in seconds. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda for possible action is request authorization to negotiate and execute a contract to replace flooring at Blinn College Cedar Park Apartments on the Blinn College campus. Dr. Burton, I have a feeling you're handing this off.
Good afternoon, Chairman Colcourse, Dr. Hensley, and members of the board. It's that time of year again. I'm bringing some projects before you for board consideration and approval. Right now, I have agenda item 6B, which is request that the board authorize administration to negotiate and execute a contract with Ace Floor Solutions for flooring contractor services for the flooring replacement in Blinn College Park Apartments buildings 4 and 5. And Texan Floor Services for flooring contractor services for the flooring replacement in Blinn College Park Apartments, building 7. Board policy CF Legal allows for the use of pre-approved procurement lists through an interlocal contract with the state for certain purchases valued at or above $50,000. Using this process, we solicited proposals, these two separate proposals for these buildings. And the reason for that was that we have slightly different scopes in those buildings. Building 4 and 5 has a slightly different scope than Building 7, and that also gave the college the best value in the analysis. So administration would recommend that the board authorize administration to negotiate and execute the contract with Ace Floor Solutions for $61,875 for the flooring work in buildings 4 and 5 at BCPA, Blinn College Park Apartments, BCPA, and Texas Floor Services for $77,800 for the flooring replacement in BCPA 7. This project allows for the work to be performed in the summer of 2024, similar to many other projects we've done in the past in the summer, and these funds are available from the FY24 repairs and renovations budget. With that, I'll stand for any questions.
Thank you, Mark. Does anyone have any questions?
What, the Texan floor is only $400 more on 4 and 5, if my math is right. So why not just let them do both?
Just in the analysis, they're both very good. They're both very good flooring contractors. We've had good work with them in the past, and just looking at it, it also allows us a little more flexibility in timing to make sure that we can get all this work done, having two separate crews going at the same time. It's not really a burden for us to have multiple contractors on campus like that.
I have a question. What is the difference in the scope on the projects? Is it different types of flooring?
No, it's a similar flooring. It's got more to do with the configurations in the buildings. Buildings 4 and 5 are a different configuration than Building 7. No, this is, we've been transitioning away from carpet in all of these buildings to LVT. It's better wear and tear in those buildings. It helps with students, maybe some spills and cleaning up. So it's a better product for us.
Mr. Chairman, I move we approve the recommendation, accept the recommendation.
Trustee Mosier makes the motion.
Second.
Trustee Wells seconds. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Thank you, Mark. Okay, next item is request authorization to negotiate and execute a contract for interior finish upgrades in buildings C and H on the Blinn Bryan campus.
Yes, sir. I'm back again.
Yes, sir.
This authorization would allow administration to negotiate and execute a contract with MBC Management for general contractor services related to interior finish upgrades in buildings C and H on the Blinn Bryan campus. This is a continuation of an ongoing project where we're going through the corridors and upgrading the flooring, upgrading the walls throughout the campus. And the next two areas we have are building C and H. We're doing the second floor corridors in building C and H. On January 30th, the college district received 9 proposals, a very good turnout, 9 proposals in response to the request for proposal for general contractor services. As we typically do in these requests for proposals, we had a committee review the proposals, and based on the committee's scores of the proposals, the administration recommends that the board authorize administration to negotiate and execute a contract with MBC Management for $241,630 for these services in building C and H. MBC Management's proposal of $241,630 is under the $250,000 estimate, which was within our R&R budget. And they've also indicated that this project can be completed in the summer timeframe.
Again, these funds are available from the FY24 R&R budget. And with that, I'll stand for any questions.
Mark, there's a significant break between the top two bids and the ones that follow. Is there a reason for that, or, I mean, that's significant, you know, over $100,000? And have we worked with MBC before?
Yes, ma'am, we have. In fact, the top two bids are the contractors that seem to be going back year to year, fighting against each other for this. So my assumption and the reason that they're more competitive is that they have the history and they have a better knowledge of doing work on our buildings.
I've also had that company do work for me in the past, and they've done a great job, so should do a good job. Any other questions? Then I would entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move we accept the recommendation of the board authorize the administration to negotiate and execute a contract with MBC Management for interior finished upgrades in building C and H on the Blinn Bryan campus.
Trustee Mosier makes the motion. Trustee Aylert seconds. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Thank you, sir. Okay, last item on the possible action agenda is request authorization to negotiate and execute a contract to demolish Buccaneer, Catherine Atkinson, Lockett, and Spencer Halls on the Blinn Brenham campus.
Certainly. Our request is that the board authorize administration to negotiate and execute a contract with SciTech Omni for the demolition services related to the demolition of Buccaneer, Catherine Atkinson, Lockett, and Spencer Halls here on the Blinn Brenham campus. On January 30th, the college district received 4 proposals in response to the request for proposals. A committee reviewed these proposals, and the administration recommends that the board authorize administration to negotiate and execute a contract with SciTech Omni for $384,400 for demolition contractor services related to the demolition of Buccaneer, Catherine Atkinson, Lockett, and Spencer Halls. SciTech Omni's proposal of $384,000 is under the $580,000 estimate, and SciTech Omni has also indicated in their proposal that they can complete this project by August of 2024. In addition to the abatement and demolition, we will be returning these spaces to green space on campus. That is the intended purpose right now. And these funds are available from the FY24 repairs and renovations budget. So with that, I'll stand for any questions.
Again, the question mark, we've got a significant difference between the two bids. Have we worked with the first vendor before, SciTech?
Yes,
Omni
ma'am.
before?
Yes, ma'am. SciTech Omni's done 3 projects with us in the past. 1 on the Bryan campus and 2 on the Brenham campus, and Albo actually did our last demolition with Solon's, Holloman, and Memorial. We're familiar with both of them. I did a deep dive into their bids to try and analyze where the difference was. I think one contractor just got a better bid from one of their subcontractors than the other one did. They're both very qualified contractors and could have done this project.
Any other questions? I would entertain a motion that the board authorize the administration to negotiate and execute a contract with SciTech Omni for demolition contractor services related to the demolition of Buccaneer, Catherine Atkinson, Lockett, and Spencer Halls on the Blinn Brenham campus. Trustee Kettler makes the motion. Seconded. Trustee Krausen seconds. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? I must admit, I'm going to be very sad to see Lockett Hall go.
Thank you all very much.
Motion carries. Thank you. Next item on the agenda, executive session, and I do not believe we have an executive session on our agenda today. So I would entertain a motion for adjournment. Trustee Wells, Trustee Kettler seconds. All in favor, please say aye. All opposed? I think we're adjourned. Thank you. It is 12:30.